Well, the thing with fiction is, of course, it's all in your control. The characters, where the story goes. If you want to create a twist, you create it. With non-fiction, and especially with this story, there is a lot of it that has been written already. It's just the words haven't been put down on paper yet. But in another sense, in a very fortunate sense, I guess, with Agastya, the joy was that there was nothing I needed to hide. I mean, as a foundation, the story has been so pure and clean and refreshingly inspirational from the beginning that it was a joy to actually, find the words to actually create that picture for the reader. The other thing is, in many ways, it's also a hero's journey. Agastya, it's not that different. In some cases, of course, the hero is Ramji. In some cases, it's Mahavir or Tyagu or Sai or Hari or any of the n number of people who I've written about, and their experiences with a challenge that Agastya faced, or with trying to build a system. For example, Revati's bit about creating the teacher training modules and the super class, as they then defined it, which really is the backbone of Agastya's delivery mechanism. It was very encouraging to read how that came about. It was very organic, and it was almost like listening to someone tell you their story. So putting that down again wasn't that difficult as a fiction writer to actually do it in a non-fiction setting. And I think the mandate was always to write this as a story of inspiration, as a story that has a narrative, a chronology that kind of one thing leads to another. And that kept me at least a little bit tied to my fiction roots. But at the end of the day, yes, there was a lot of research that had to be done. There was a lot of, as we said, people had to be interviewed, and their thoughts and their opinions had to be woven into the narrative. But net, I think because it was an encouraging story, because it was an inspirational story, it felt like writing fiction, except at the end of the day, I looked back and said, yes, this all actually happened. So. One of the things that we frequently heard when doing the interviews was that Agastya is maybe the best kept secret of India. And I think I always felt that if I can sort of somehow crush that image and allow the book to reach the right kinds of people, wherein Agastya's message, what it's trying to do, the kind of help it needs to continue, forging ahead, if all that can be benefited in some way from the book's proliferation into the right hands, then that would then have served the purpose that we set out to. At the end of the book, there's also a lot of key learnings. I genuinely believe, without any shred of doubt, that these guys have built an organization that isn't just an NGO. It is something to emulate, whether you run a small business or a huge conglomerate. The key learnings at the end of this book are, in fact, Ramji's distilled learnings from years of experience building an organization, more or less from the ground up. I mean, we're talking about a rough patch of earth, literally in the middle of Andhra Pradesh, turning into what I believe is an oasis of learning and a model that has transcended almost every state, across this country. And going from there to there, there has to be stuff that anyone looking to build an organization to scale up while holding on to the quality of the original thought that you brought into the organization. There's a lot there that can be learned. So it would be nice if the book reached the kind of people that can appreciate that and who would read the story and say, yes, this is an organization that we would love in some way to be involved with. So Agastya already has, I would say, 2.0 as in its sights. I think one of the things, in fact, even writing the book, one of the toughest things was each week you'd suddenly be told, oh, by the way, we're also doing this. Can you put it into the book? And it was very difficult to keep pace with it because I would have to write in real time. And so they've thought this through, and they've said we have reached 20 million children or 25 million children now, and we want that number to be 100 million. And in most organizations, in most countries, in most of the sort of wildest corporate ambitions, 100 million is a huge number. And when you speak with folks within Agastya, they all seem to take it very much in their stride to say that, yeah, that is the obvious next step that we have. I would love to see the organization steer itself in that direction. I think the key is, of course, finding a way to bring hands-on and digital in a blended sense that can have the same impact that it's having today. There is a joy to hands-on learning, to touching experiment, to breaking it, to kind of pulling it apart, to rebuilding it back from scratch, especially when it's made with everyday objects, as Agastya has always managed to somehow do. Translating that into a digital space is going to be quite a challenge, and I think Agastya is going to have to work very hard to do that. But the good news is, they've always been innovative, they've always been viciously creative, and I don't see that changing in any time soon. So whatever does come out of the digital space, or the blended space as they call it, the phygital space, physical and digital, I think will still wow everyone who looks at it to say, how on earth did they do that? And that's what Agastya is.